Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Govindadev ki jai. Kali Yuga Dharma Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Good to be back with you for another session where we uncover the brilliant, adventurous pastimes of our best friend, and where we find out what those histories, all of these pastimes, what do they mean for us? How do we bring them into our lives and really make them real? How do we take them out of the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam or the pages of history, and how do we make them a daily part of our everyday prayers? Because that's what it means to have Krishna as a best friend. That will bring him into our lives, that we'll communicate with him every day, that we will give him affection, show him attention every day. Just as if we were having a friendship or we were in a relationship with anyone, we would expect them to call us. We would expect to call them. We would expect to have conversations. Otherwise, the deepness and the depth of that friendship begins to waver. So how can we take these stories that seemingly occurred thousands of years ago, and how do we make them relevant to all of us today, to the point where we can then make Krishna a part of our everyday lives, to a point where we can then show Krishna our undying affection every day. And if we do that, the question is always, okay, what do we get in return? Because as selfless as I hope to be one day, I know that I may not be there yet. So sometimes I'm still looking for, okay, what do we get? What do we get in return? So we will uncover, hopefully, all of that and more today as we enter part 2 of this storytelling session, which has been named Fighting God. But of course, in order to enter into these gorgeous pastimes, we want to do it in the right frame of mind. And so we will begin, as we always do, with Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalabha Giri Varadhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalabha Giri Varadhari Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Radhe 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 Govinda Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Radha Govindadev ki jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. So the past 2 days, we've ventured outside of the realm of Vrindavan. And we journeyed to Dwarka, a place where the mood is a little different. According to how we saw Krishna before, Krishna looks a little different. No longer is he holding his flute constantly with him. But now he has weapons. He has armor. He has a gorgeous crown. There are still peacock feathers, but it's different. Krishna has necklaces and necklaces of jewels. And this golden, princely armor is so attractive. But it's a little different from what we've seen in his gorgeous, heart-captivating Vrindavan pastimes. But we journeyed to Dwarka along with Krishna. And we discussed yesterday that he built this entire fort of Dwarka with all of its jewels and all of its precious gems and its crystal towers. And then he mystically transported all of the citizens of Mathura to the fortress of Dwarka in the middle of the night, just so that none of them would be inconvenienced by having to move, so that none of them would even be inconvenienced by any kind of fear. And the reason that he moved them was because they were being constantly harassed by the great demon king Jarasandha. And he had attacked Krishna and Mathura city 18 times. And he was soundly defeated each time. But because Krishna didn't kill him, he kept coming back. Again, and again, and again, and again. And he had such incredible determination. Sometimes I try to remind myself, and I like to think that maybe I need to have the determination of a demon, even in my spiritual life. I feel like if I face just one setback, I'm like, well, that's it. No more trying for me. I tried to get close to Krishna one time, it didn't work. Let me go back to my own program. And here we see that Jarasandha attacked again and again and again, chasing Krishna to a mountain, setting that mountain on fire, looking for him. He would not stop, he would not rest. He wanted to capture Krishna. He wanted to defeat the Yadu army. And even though it was impossible for him to do so, he didn't stop trying. He kept going. He kept that flame and that determination alive in his heart. So sometimes I think that I need to adopt some of that determination. Even if it is coming from a demon, we have something to learn from everyone. Those demons had incredible enthusiasm. They had an incredible amount of fortitude that nothing would stop them from achieving their goal. And so with love, I want nothing to stop me from achieving my goal of one day loving Govinda with all my heart. I don't want anything to stop me. And if I face a setback, I want to come back again and again and again. Just so that maybe one day I will somehow get a little bit closer to loving him with all my heart. So, it turned out that Krishna moved his entire city to Dwarka. And Maharaj Ugrasena was still king. It turned out that Krishna and Balarama, due to the curse of Yayati, I think it is, they were not allowed to sit on the throne because no Yadus could sit on the throne. They were cursed that the Yadu tribe or the Yadu dynasty would not be able to rule properly. So Maharaj Ugrasena, who was the king of the Shurasenas, at a certain point they told him, you sit on the throne. We will be your advisors. So when Devaki and Vasudeva are finally set free from Kamsa's oppression, Maharaj Ugrasena wants to coronate Krishna. He wants to sit Krishna on the throne, but Krishna says no. Maharaj Ugrasena, you keep the throne. We will be your loyal advisors. And so Krishna continues to be the loyal advisor to Maharaj Ugrasena, even up to the time of this story, which is why, although Krishna is known as Dwarkadish, and he is the Lord of Dwarka, he's technically not the king, because he wasn't able to be. He was honoring that curse that said that the Yadus would not be able to sit on the throne. So one of my friends is asking, when we find those setbacks, how to handle, one, the setback, but also how to handle the guilt of the setback. And we will get into that. Have it mapped out because this story is so wonderful at illuminating all of these gems, which is why I think it is such an appropriate story that deals with a gem, because it is a story filled with gems that we can take away and tuck deep into our hearts, and we can keep them with us constantly. So yesterday we discussed how Krishna moved everyone to Dwarka, and there was a jewel given to a king named Satrajit. And this jewel was known as Shamantaka. This Shamantaka jewel was mystical. I think we kind of all need it right now today, because it is stated that wherever this jewel is, there's no sign of famine, so nobody goes hungry. There's no sign of pestilence. Pestilence is a really fancy word that means epidemic. So there's no sign of worldwide pandemics. If we had this jewel, there'd be no coronavirus. And there's no sign of disease at all, wherever this jewel is worshipped. Not only that, but the jewel was producing, for the worshipper of that jewel, this jewel was producing somewhere around approximately 170 pounds of gold every day. My mind can't even fathom that much pure gold. I cannot fathom that gold at all. So to be able to have that much gold, and that's just one day's worth. So that's just one day's worth. And then the next day it produces the same amount of gold. The next day it produces that same amount of gold. And so the proprietor or the owner of this jewel has untold amounts of wealth. And that's just from having this one jewel. Question is, where did this jewel come from? This jewel has a very, very interesting history. There was a demon by the name of Acyuta. This Acyuta had a huge jewel on his forehead. This Acyuta approaches Balarama and Krishna, but Balarama first, while Balarama is having his own rasa dance. So if you look on the Vaishnav calendar, you see things like Balaram Rasa Yatra. What does that mean? It means that Balaram has his own rasa dance. Balaram has his own gopis. And in the Garga Samhita that we had been reading from before, we hear that the Naga Kanyas, all of the princesses of the Naga kingdom in the netherworld, so the Naga Kanyas, all of those princesses, become the gopis of Sri Balaram, because he is none other than Anantasesh. And so they think, oh, our Lord is going to appear on the earth. Let us go with him and perform pastimes for his own pleasure. So Balaram has his very own set of gopis. And our great Vaishnav historians tell that at some points, Krishna has his rasa dance, Balaram has his rasa dance. Sometimes there's a competition about which rasa dance can be more joyful. Sometimes during the season of Holi, Balaram has his gopis, Krishna has his gopis, and they all have great competitions, even while hiding from each other. Because Balaram and his gopis don't usually mix with Krishna and Krishna's gopis, because it's a little awkward. You know, if you've ever been on a date with someone, or you've ever had an alone time with someone that you were really romantically interested in, and then if you think your older brother is there or your younger brother is there, it's a little awkward, you know? And the mood shifts. So while the many forests of Vrindavan provide an ample space for both Krishna and Balaram to have these sporting pastimes with both sets of their gopis, then they have sometimes a competition. But there came a time when Balaram and his gopis were being accosted by this Acyuta. He wanted to kidnap those gopis. And so there was a great fight. And the demon was defeated. And Balaram took the jewel. And then Balaram asked his gopis to go and present that jewel to Krishna. And Balaram wouldn't go himself. He asked his gopis because he knew that Krishna was with his own gopis. And so, like I said, it gets a little awkward. Nobody wants to destroy the mood of the other one. Nobody wants to disturb anybody's romantic rendezvous. So the gopis of Lord Balaram approach Krishna with this jewel, and they tell him of what's happened. Krishna then gives the jewel to Radharani. And in a thrilling and gripping story, which is quite mysterious, but Rupa Goswami himself has given us a little bit of an entryway into this pastime through his beautiful dramatic works, Lalita Madhava and Vidagdha Madhava. And he tells these gorgeous pastimes in the form of a play. And so he speaks about how this jewel was then given to Radharani. And Radharani holds on to that jewel. But eventually, Radharani gives the jewel to Suryadev, the sun god. So the sun god has this gorgeous jewel known as Shamantaka. And the sun god gives this jewel to King Satrajit. Satrajit is very proud of this jewel. The moment he puts it on, it makes him look like he is a second sun god. Its effulgence is so bright that it is literally like the truest meaning of 24-karat magic. He looks splendorous. He's glowing from all directions. And when he enters Dwarka city, everyone thinks this must be the sun god come to visit Krishna himself. Because they're used to so many demigods, so many elevated people coming to visit Krishna. The citizens of Dwarka have an inkling that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that's what we discussed yesterday. That the citizens of Brajabhumi, the villagers, the sweethearts of Vrindavan Dham, although they see that Krishna performs all kinds of heroic deeds, they know him as just their Krishna. But within Dwarka, they address him as Narayan. They have an inkling that maybe this Krishna, even though he is our prince and he's acting just like our king, maybe he's the Supreme Lord. So their mood is a little different. So they tell him, the sun god must be coming to visit you. And Krishna smiles and he says, no, actually who you think to be the sun god is none other than this king, Satrajit. And he reveals to them that he is now the proprietor of this jewel. And he asks Satrajit, please give me the jewel. I think the best of everything should be given to the king. Not selfishly, but so that it can be used for the greater good of all society at large. So instead of one king having this jewel and keeping all of the benefits and the blessings and benedictions and the wealth for himself, if he were to give this jewel to Maharaj Ugrasena, everyone, even in the whole world, would be benefited by having that jewel. Satrajit says, no, I think it better that I keep it in my temple and I worship it myself. Srila Prabhupada says that this is the example of a less intelligent person worshipping something material for some material gain. So Satrajit now is, and we see this sometimes, right? He's worshipping this jewel, but we find that people worship so many different things and people in this material world. It seems as though as soon as somebody has a lot of wealth, we think that they're very important. Oh, that person has so much money, they must be so important. We hang pictures of them up in our rooms. We put them on billboards. There are so many instances where people will go on pilgrimage to a holy place in India. But sometimes, before they go to that holy place in India, they will stop at a famous actor's house. And they will say things like, my pilgrimage is not complete until I've seen this famous actor. So now, just because this person has an ability to act very well on a stage, they've gotten this worship. So Srila Prabhupada says that this is an example of a lesser intelligent form of worship. Because what is all this really coming from? Any wealth, opulence, beauty, strength, intelligence, renunciation, any of that, where is it all coming from? It's all coming from Krishna anyway. But sometimes we wind up neglecting the worship of Krishna and falling into the worship of someone or something else. So this story has so many different learning lessons that we'll get into. Yesterday, we spoke about the worship of Lord Ganesh and Ganesh Chaturthi, which is coming up really soon, which is why I think it was definitely divine inspiration somehow from Govinda that had us recounting this story for the past 2 days. But we talked about Ganesh Chaturthi and about demigod worship and what that really means. Even Krishna paid his greatest respects to Lord Ganesh and upheld his own curse, upheld the words of his own devotee. So we talked a little bit about the mood in which you want to approach different demigods and even different people who have great material wealth or can manipulate this material world. Sometimes we see there are so many great holy people or sages or mystical prophets or people with all kinds of supernatural powers that can tell the future. People that can anything. They can make things appear out of their hands, you know? What is the right mood to approach that, though? We can look at it and see, wow, this person has been given such incredible blessing by my Krishna. Can they help me get closer to Krishna? Like Jarasandha, we should have that one pointed determination and focus. Can this person help me get closer to Krishna? They have such amazing power. What I want to know is not, can they give me some of their material wealth, but can they help me get closer to Krishna? So Srila Prabhupada says that this is the mood in which we should approach even the demigods. Oh, my dear Lord Ganesh, I know that you place your beautiful head upon the feet of Lord Krishna, asking him for his mercy in order to remove obstacles. Can you help me get closer to Krishna? On your own appearance day, you are very fond of giving blessings. I ask for this one benediction. Can you tell me how to get closer to Krishna? The gopis were constantly asking trees, the flowers, the vines and creepers of Vrindavan, have you seen which way Krishna has gone? There's even one pastime where Krishna disguises himself as Lord Narayan, adopting a four-armed form, and the gopis see him. And he wonders if the gopis will be taken in or somehow deterred by the form of Lord Narayan himself. Everyone worships Lord Narayan. The gopis see Lord Narayan and they pay him all respects. And then they say, my dear Lord Narayan, have you seen which way Krishna has gone? Have you seen Krishna? Can you tell us where he is? And my Guru Maharaj likes to say that Lord Narayan, with his 4 arms, he points, he went that way. And the gopis take off, running after Krishna. That's all they cared about. So can we adopt that one pointed, fixed, devotional attitude? Oh, gorgeous Lord Ganesh, on your appearance day, you are so fond of giving blessings. Can you tell us which way Krishna has gone? Can you tell us just how to get a little closer? Can you remove the obstacles in my devotional life? I know you can do anything. You have so much power, so much strength. Can you help me get a little closer to Krishna? And in this way, everyone in the universe becomes our divine well-wisher and our best friend. And then we do not fall into the trap of misusing the blessings of so many great devotees. So how amazing is this pastime of Krishna, that he himself upholds the words of his great devotee. And so he took on, eventually, as we come to find out, this false blame. So what happens? Satrajit's brother Prasena, as we spoke about yesterday, he goes and he takes the jewel and he rides out to show everyone, look at how wealthy we are as a family. Look at everything we've got. And he rides into the forest and he's killed by a lion. Which just goes to show, you could have all the wealth in the world. You could have a jewel that could produce 170 pounds of gold every day, but can it save you from death? No, it can't. He was killed by a lion. Not by famine, not by disease, not by old age, by a lion. So Prasena is killed. And then the great Riksharaj, who we spoke of yesterday, Jambavan, he arrives. And he is the real king of the jungle. And so he is wandering across his domain and he sees this lion with this incredible jewel, which is not something that you see every day. You do not see a lion usually roaming around looking like a second sun god with this jewel in its mouth. So Jambavan goes to get the jewel from the lion. They have a tussle and Jambavan kills the lion with his bare hands. Takes the jewel, takes it home and gives it to his son. Meanwhile, back in Dwarka, when Prasena does not come home, Satrajit is thinking, what has happened to my brother? And he thinks, I know. Krishna wanted that jewel for himself, and just because I didn't give it to him, that rascal must have hunted my brother down and killed him and taken the jewel by force. He spreads a rumor throughout all of Dwarka. And I like to write small snapshots of pastimes because I'm not a person that can draw. So I try to draw with words. So there are different snapshots of different pastimes. One of my friends is saying that Jambavan killed the lion with his bare hands. Get it? Because bare hands, because he's close to a bear. You get it? You got it. I like it. So he kills the lion with his bare hands. I love. And so this horrible rumor is spread throughout all of Dwarka. And I like to write small sections of pastimes because I can't draw. Not as well as some of my friends. But I can draw with words. I can paint a picture with words. So that vision, that one section of this rumor being spread throughout Dwarka hit me so hard that I wrote a small section about it, an adapted small section from Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm going to start, 39 minutes in, we're going to start with that. The word thief whispered through the palace corridor. It came fluttering in on the breeze and ruffled the silks hanging near the large windows. However, it was the word that followed that stopped Krishna in his tracks. Murderer. Krishna turned sharply That wasn't something he was used to hearing in his own palace. He could hear palace workers speaking just around the corner, and he found himself steadily easing closer to hear more of this conversation. It's true. He's a murderer. One of the workers, a gardener if Krishna wasn't mistaken, whispered fiercely. The other merely scoffed. I don't believe you. He's like our king. He would never murder anyone. Perhaps there's just someone upset with his brand of justice. The other worker jumped in to defend him. Krishna nodded, boosted and worried in equal measures by the conversation going on just feet away from him. Murder wasn't a common occurrence within Dwarka. Krishna wasn't sure, but it sounded as if they were talking about, I'm telling you, Krishna is a murderer. There was no doubt now. They were talking about him. Krishna drew back as though he had been slapped. His face fell, and for a moment he was stunned. So stunned he didn't think to move as the two workers rounded the corner and came face to face with the very subject of their conversation. Krishna was right. One of them was a gardener. The gardener Purnachandra and his family had worked in the palace and with the Yadava family for decades. They had become less like workers and more like family. It seemed as though the sentiment had only been on Krishna's side, however. Purnachandra nearly walked into Krishna's tall frame and sputtered, taking several steps back. His eyes quickly fell to the polished marble floor. If Krishna still wasn't convinced that they had been talking about him, he was absolutely sure by the guilty way Purnachandra's eyes darted back and forth. Prabhu, it's not me who's saying this. Purnachandra stuttered, trying to fix the situation. Krishna's eyes narrowed just a fraction. Oh? Who is saying this then? Krishna's gaze was intent, fixed on Purnachandra. His eyebrow raised just a fraction, waiting for the other man to speak, and he could see the gardener squirm visibly under the scrutiny. Everyone, my lord. Purnachandra nodded sagely, his eyes widening to try and convey his innocence. I merely repeated what Krishna held up a hand. He attempted to even out his breathing. And tell me, who is it that I'm meant to have murdered? Krishna turned his back on the two workers and stood to look out the palace window. How had he missed this? Were they all really talking? His people? Prasena Kumar, Prabhu, the brother of Satrajit. Of course. Krishna's voice was laced with annoyance. This was a rare side of him. The prince of Dwarka was more often than not in the best spirits. Hardly anyone had ever seen him angry, and certainly not with those he allowed within the confines of his own home. As Krishna peered out the window, he caught the glance of several of the citizens. Not one of them dared to hold eye contact with him. They averted their eyes and quickened their step, eager to get to whatever destination they were headed to. No one would even look at him. This was absolutely preposterous. His people were talking about him, the one who saved them time and again. Somehow, they had turned against him. I assure you I have done nothing of the sort. However, if it seems as though your mind has already been made up, you may go. Krishna dismissed the two men with a flick of his wrist. He was never this formal with those who worked and served in the palace. Purnachandra was instantly sorry for believing the strange things he'd heard drifting around the city, but he chose to say nothing in the moment. Instead, He hung his head and walked quickly away. Somehow, a solid weight had settled in his stomach, and he felt acutely uncomfortable in his own skin. It was as if his own body was rebelling against his mind, which had launched the accusations against Dwarkadish. How many times do we believe the worst about Krishna? We are meant to have faith in our best friend. And then when something doesn't go our way, we believe the worst. Krishna, why would you do this to me? You are so hard-hearted. Krishna, how could you let this calamity befall me? You are so cold, so stone-hearted. And within the cities of our minds, rumors begin to develop. That Krishna, who is our protector, our maintainer, our dearest love, somehow is not on our side, somehow does not have our best interest at heart. How many times do we believe those rumors that our minds put out against our best friend? Simply because we are disappointed. In this case, I reimagine and I wonder about how badly the citizens of Dwarka must have felt believing these things about Krishna. Krishna sets off on a journey to go and retrieve this jewel, and as we spoke about yesterday, he fights with Jambavan for 28 days. How is it? How is it that he could fight with Jambavan, who worshipped the Lord as Sri Ram, for 28 days? My Guru Maharaj says that Jambavan was so attached to his pride, attached to his anger, that he could not even recognize Krishna. When Krishna was standing right in front of him, he couldn't recognize his Lord. And there is a poem within Premamala where I say, "Oh my Lord, how I have missed you. You have taken the opportunity to appear before me in so many different ways, in so many different forms, and I've missed you. I have overlooked you. I have sought out comfort in other places, so many other things, and so many other people. And I've turned away from you thinking, what can you do for me?" Krishna is cold-hearted. How could I believe the rumors? I don't want to believe the lies that my mind tells me anymore. Krishna is not against me. Krishna's divine arrangement is not my enemy. No matter what my life looks like, no matter what the setbacks are, no matter what the obstacles are, I want to have faith and I want to believe that Krishna would never be against me. I want to believe that whatever setback happens occurs because Krishna is preparing me for a much bigger, better blessing. I don't want to believe my mind anymore because my mind is acting from that place of fear, holding on as tightly as possible to that pride and that anger. When who is it that I'm really angry with? Who am I really angry with? I'm angry with myself for turning away from Krishna. One of my friends is asking, what about the washerman who was washing clothes in Mathura city? And he didn't give Krishna the clothes. Didn't Krishna kill him? The answer is yes. And that story is so mysterious that it needs its own session. And I want to tell it maybe tomorrow. Because it deserves its own story. Because it has a backstory. And I'll have to name that session, Krishna Never Forgets His Devotees. So, we will dive into that tomorrow. Do me a favor and message me and remind me that that is tomorrow's topic. Because it deserves its own session. Because it's so beautiful. So Jambavan fights with Krishna for 28 days. And like I said, I don't want to hold on to that anger and that pride that make me fight Krishna. I don't want to fight him anymore. The minute that Jambavan surrendered, the minute that Jambavan took shelter of Krishna, the same thing that was pummeling Jambavan's bulging muscles. Srimad Bhagavatam calls his muscles bulging. The very same hand that was pounding into Jambavan again and again. It becomes the very thing that heals him. So as we fight against Krishna and his divine arrangement, we are fighting against Krishna's blessings. Once we turn to him and surrender, once we take shelter of our dearest friend, acknowledging that, wait a second, you are never against me. You love me. Those same obstacles can become the things which bring us to Krishna. Those obstacles can become the things that enrich our lives forever and ever. Jambavan fights with Krishna for 28 days before finally he begins to offer incredible prayers. He says, "Oh my Lord, you are the source of all creators." Jambavan should know. Jambavan was born from the creator Lord Brahma himself. He says, you are the source of the ingoing and outgoing breath. You are the source of everything. Just with one glance, you are ready to ignite and dry up the ocean as Lord Ramachandra. When Lord Ram got angry just once, with one glance he was ready to dry up the ocean because Varunadev would not appear before him. Jambavan acknowledges, you are my Lord, time after time. What's amazing about this story of Jambavan that we've been studying over these past 2 days now, and the most amazing thing that we have gone through for weeks now, is we've talked about Krishna and his parents. We've talked about Krishna and his cowherd boyfriends. We've talked about Krishna and Jambavan even. And Krishna loved them all. But what we haven't talked about a lot is the gopis. And that's been deliberate. On purpose. Because I believe that there's a certain level that we have to come to together in order to talk about the incredible, overwhelming love of the gopis. But as we talk about Krishna's relationships with all these different people, there is one thing in common. Krishna loves them all. He loves them all overwhelmingly, intimately, incredibly. So Krishna can and does love everyone. Krishna can love anyone. So if you think, I'm not at the level of the gopis yet, fine. Krishna will love you anyway. He will soothe your life with the cooling touch of his hand. It's not simply that he loves the gopis and forgets about everyone else. He loves Jambavan. And he remembers his devotee. And what does he do with Jambavan? He takes a situation that seems as though it is the most inauspicious. He's accused of murder. He's accused of theft. He's accused of so many things. He's being bad-mouthed. This is an incredibly inauspicious situation. This is a calamity. And we can all resonate with this because we have been caught in these kinds of calamities. Our reputations get threatened. Our family lives get threatened. Our jobs get threatened. Financial security, homes, everything gets threatened. Krishna takes this incredible situation and then he turns it. He spins the entire thing and makes it the most auspicious thing that could ever happen. Krishna meets Jambavan, and one would say fighting with Krishna would be the most incredible offense. Jambavan has punched Krishna, kicked Krishna, hit him with boulders and trees. We would consider this an offense. Srila Prabhupada considers, he says that sometimes Krishna wishes to enjoy a fighting match. So he chooses a suitable devotee opponent with which to fight. Even what we would consider an offense. And this is how we deal with the guilt. For my friend who was asking earlier, how do we deal with this guilt? We have to have faith in Krishna's unflinching love for us. Krishna arranged even the battle with Jambavan and accepted Jambavan's punching, hitting, kicking as devotional service. How often does Krishna have a plan for our lives? And he has to drag us to that plan, sometimes kicking and screaming. And we think, oh, how could I ever recover from this? But even out of his causeless mercy, his love, he accepts that as devotional service in its own way. But Jambavan had to surrender. Jambavan had to take shelter of Krishna's cooling lotus hand. So there is hope. There is hope for every single one of us. So this is how Krishna can turn this seemingly most horrible situation into a blessing that we could have never imagined. Because after they fight, Krishna tells Jambavan, I've been looking for this jewel. Jambavan says, please take the jewel. Also, I have a daughter named Jambavati. Please accept her. There's a mysterious story about Jambavati. Jambavati was found by Jambavan. And she had worshipped Krishna her whole existence. Rupa Goswami shares mysteriously that she is an expansion of none other than Lalita Devi, whose own appearance day is coming up. So Lalita Devi has this expansion as the great Queen Jambavati. And so she has been meditating on Sri Krishna her entire existence. Jambavan now gives his daughter Jambavati to Krishna. And it says within Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna was gone for so long that the citizens of Dwarka thought that he had died. They thought that something terrible must have happened. And so they go back to Dwarka. They were previously waiting outside the cave of Jambavan. They go back to Dwarka. And they begin by hurling insults at Satrajit. This is all your fault. None of this would have happened if you had not started that rumor about Krishna. They call him all kinds of curses and ill names. May all sorts of misfortune befall your family, because now that you have said this, our Krishna is gone. We don't know if he's coming back. What will happen to Dwarka in the absence of Krishna? They feel as though a great stone has fallen upon their heads. They have nothing left. And in that mood, Rukmini Devi, Vasudev, and all the relatives of Krishna, they all join together and they run to the temple of Durga Devi. They have a deity named Chandrabhaga, and they all pray to her. So sometimes we look and we see, Krishna devotees say, you should never do demigod worship. Forget those demigods. No, the citizens of Dwarka, when they felt the most bereft, they went and they prayed to the goddess Durga before her with tears in their eyes. But what did they pray for? Bring Krishna back to us safely. Please just bring Krishna back. We are willing to do anything, everything. We come to you, O goddess, and we ask for our hero to return to our lives. Mystically, at that moment, it is said that the goddess speaks to them. She promises that Krishna is fine and that he will return. I love the goddess Durga's role within all of Krishna's pastimes. When Sita Devi is upset and she has first seen Sri Ram and she knows her heart's desire is just to marry him, she runs to Gauri Mata and she prays, if I have ever pleased you, just allow the Lord of my heart to win me in this Swayamvara competition the next day. Gauri Mata says, so be it, I promise. When Rukmini Devi is feeling so despondent and she's feeling depressed, she doesn't know if Krishna will arrive in time. She doesn't know if he's accepted her or not. She runs to the temple of Gauri Mata and she prays, just allow the Lord of my heart to accept me. All of the gopis run to Durga Devi. They perform Katyayani Vrat for a month, just saying, I will please you. Just allow Krishna to become the Lord of my heart. She is like the goddess of happy endings. And I love the role that she takes in these divine pastimes. Each time she says, so be it. She promises. So just, we see here, they pray. We will do anything, everything, just bring our prince home. She says, so be it, I promise. And it is said that at that moment, Krishna arrives with the jewel and a new princess. And the great marriage ceremony is performed. Krishna is welcomed home like a hero. Everyone is so eager to see him. In this way, we should also be so eager to see how Krishna will turn around the obstacles in our lives. We may be facing so many hurdles, but Krishna can turn them into a palace of blessings. I'm facing a mountain of obstacles, but I know, my Lord, you are the king of turning a barren land into paradise. Change my life. Bless me. Give me all of your innumerable blessings. Oh my Lord, I can only depend on you. Oh my Lord, there is only you. Poor Instagram got disconnected. And because Instagram got disconnected, I didn't want them to miss this ending prayer. So we have to remember that Krishna is an absolute master at turning the barren wasteland of all of our obstacles into a palace of blessings. He can do it. He has done it before. Every single one of these pastimes is meant to just show us what is waiting for us also. Krishna's pastimes are meant to show us, I've done this before. I have this all under control, and I will perform these same miracles for you. Why? Because he loves us. Who can conceive of Krishna's amazing plans? When Krishna makes a plan for our lives, sometimes our setbacks look like the worst failures imaginable. But I encourage you, and I encourage myself, to hold on to that trust and to hold on to this story in the core of our heart, where we keep all of the best things locked up tight for remembrance. I urge us all to return again and again to this story with the message and the prayer of, oh my Govinda, right now, my life may not look like I've planned. Right now, I may be facing a million hurdles and obstacles. I may be facing some of the worst setbacks of my life. Oh my Govinda, I am facing so much. My reputation may be in danger. My finances may be in danger. My family may be in danger. But just as you have done with Jambavan, I am sure that you have a miracle just waiting for me. Jambavan had to turn to you before any of that could happen. So now, I am turning to you. My dearest Lord, I am letting go of my pride. I am letting go of my anger. I am letting go of my fierce attachment to all of the things that I think that I need, all those things that I think I should have. And I am trying, little by little, to trust you. To trust that you have a large-scale plan lying in wait just for me. I am willing to trust that you have my absolute best interest at heart, and that you are waiting to rescue me and lift me up out of this small-minded, narrow view that I have for my life. I know that you are going to enact one of your amazing pastimes in my life. I know that you are going to bestow the same blessings that you gave to Jambavan. You are going to bestow those same blessings in my life. I know that you are the strength of the strong. I know that you are the ability in anything and everything that I do. Please show me your purpose for my life. Show me what your love has arranged for me in my life. I no longer want to fight you. I want to surrender to you in love. I want to take shelter of you, all in love. And when Jambavan turned to Krishna and he spoke those amazing prayers and he, in his own way, took shelter and surrendered to Krishna, Krishna changed his entire role in all of history. Krishna made Jambavan his own father-in-law. That is a position that no devotee could ever dream of. I'm sure that when Jambavan was serving Sri Ram, he probably did not think that he would in time become the very own father-in-law of his own worshipful Lord. Not just the father-in-law, but he becomes the grandfather of Samba, Krishna's son, who was a favorite of the entire Yadu dynasty. He was Balaram's own favorite. He was Krishna's own favorite. Samba was such a dear, dear boy. Everyone loved him. And that was Jambavan's grandson. What an elevated position he gave to Jambavan. So just think. We feel ourselves very low right now. We feel ourselves very far from Krishna, quite bereft. But who knows what position Krishna has planned for you? We should watch and wait full of hope, fully expecting the mercy of our dearest Lord, who can love us with all of himself, and who in fact does love us with every ounce of himself. He loves us so unlimitedly. We can't even conceive of the master plan that Krishna has for our lives. We just have to come to that place where we no longer fight him. Where we say, okay, I'm not working against you anymore. I am yours. I work with you now. I am yours, you are mine, that is all I know. And as we enter the season of so many different festivals, Ganesh Chaturthi, in October, Navaratri will be coming. Let us think of these wonderful devotees who all play a very vital role in all of Krishna's pastimes. Let us run to them and ask, do you know which way my Govinda has gone? Can you help me get closer? Oh Durga Devi, Gauri Mata, can you help me? Can you help the Lord of my life accept me? Can you give me that wealth? Can you bestow upon me the wealth and the blessing of Krishna's love? So that somehow, even though I know he loves me, so that I can properly love him in return. If we work at it, these can be our prayers. Let us remember these prayers. Let us remember these gorgeous pastimes. First thing in the morning, let us remember that our Govinda is a hero. He took what looked like the worst situation possible, And in the end, he turned it into a marriage celebration. What could be more auspicious than a marriage? Krishna's very own wedding. These blessings await all of us. If we just take to it with heart, full feeling. Anytime we chant, anytime we remember these pastimes, our Govinda is right there with us, waiting to perform innumerable miracles and adventures in our own lives. Thank you so much for being with me again. I can't wait to be with you all again tomorrow. Dwarkadish ki jai. Shri Radha Govindadev ki jai. Sri Vrindavan ki jai. All glories to the beautiful pastimes of our Sri Govinda. Thank you. See you soon.